Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I'm your host, BMR. I'll be joined shortly with the lovely Krista from the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and give a thumbs up and hit the alert bell and share us out. You can find us on YouTube, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and Texas Front Porch. Please, again, subscribe if not already. We're on Odyssey Radio, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and wherever podcasts are found. We're also on KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Selene out in Oregon for that. Again, you can find us on Facebook at Texas Front Porch. At email, Cryptid Encounters or beyondbmr@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe. Texas Front Porch, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast, all found on YouTube. If you like and want to help support the channels, the Super Chat is open. Yes, the Super Chat's open. Well, long after the show ends, so is the Super Thanks, if you're so inclined to do so. Check out our About pages on our YouTube channels. Keeps you up to date on what we've got going on throughout the week. And speaking about what we got going on throughout the week, on Mondays, it is Texas Front Porch, 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety. It comes on at 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond the BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM, 10 o'clock in the East. All three shows on Tuesday. Wednesday, Jason McLean questions everything, 9 o'clock in the East. Thursdays, right here, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. Tonight and Thursday night. Tonight, don't forget to check out the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. That, of course, comes on at 9 in the East. If you need more of the booze, they provide a little woo for you on Friday nights. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, 9 o'clock on East on Friday. Tex is debuting a new show with Danielle Diva. It's on Saturdays. It's going to be, I got the official time slot for Tex. That is going to be 2 p.m. Central, 3 o'clock in the East. Again, put on your alert bell because that time might change. I'm not sure, but check it out this Saturday. You can also find Jessica Jones on Space Out Radio, Saturdays and Sunday nights at 10 in the East. Go check her out over there. Again, Super Chat is open. Please subscribe, share us out, spread the good word about all the channels. And I thank each and every single one of you for coming in the chat and watching later on in the day. I'm going to add Krista. Krista, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
You know, I'm fantastic. I'm sporting my sun yellow bandana because we finally I woke up this morning. The sun was finally blazing bright, and It was a nice high sun. It got me all pumped up. I said, yeah, I'm gonna keep that going, add a little sunshine with my new headgear.
You know what? Spring has finally sprung here in Missouri, too. It's supposed to be 70 degrees today. Finally.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm looking at my temperature. Despite the fact that the sun is blazing, it's still only 37.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you.
But, you know, it's so screwy. And it seems like I always talk about the weather when we start a show. It's just I'm so sick of Michigan's weather. Because tomorrow, April 1st, or I think, no, Saturday is April 1st. So, but we've got snow coming in tomorrow. You know, you just can't get away from this stuff.
We got storms coming ourselves.
It doesn't snow. You know, it doesn't snow in November. It doesn't snow in December or January. It's always the end of February, early March. So who the hell knows?
Right? When does it start typically getting warm in Michigan when you get 60, 70 degree days?
It usually starts on May 15th. It goes from 50 degrees to 75.
So you have to wait that long?
Yeah, it's in the 60s. if in April it should be in the 60s.
Yeah.
And then by May 1st, you're hoping to be high 60s, low 70s. And then, like I said, right toward the end of May, you hit 80. And then it's 80 degrees all the way through like September 15th. And
Wow.
we also get like a lot of 90-degree days
Yeah.
in July,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
Michigan's now getting more and more humid. It's almost like Florida. I mean, you can literally go outside and sweat and sitting in the shade.
That's
And
how
again,
Missouri is.
it's never been like that here.
Yeah.
It's the last few
Missouri
years.
is awful. Awful
And
with the heat.
also, it is Missouri. I bet I was,
Hmm.
yeah, I can imagine. I was in St. Louis a few years ago during the summer, and boy, it was sweltering in St.
Yep.
Louis.
Oh yeah. Most definitely.
And and the thing that started last year, it's windy as hell now. Every day we get these gusts of wind. I lost the internet just because of wind
Yeah. That's
knocking down
crazy too.
trees. 60 mile, yeah, so who knows? I think the government does control that now. I'm a firm
Yeah.
believer there's somebody pushing some buttons upstairs.
Somewhere. So there's got to be something going on. I'm telling you.
And I'm gonna run through chat here right
Okay.
quick. And there's James, Danny's going on. He's on a show later. Thanks, Danny. Jojo, my stalker. She's my stalker. Gary Spikes. Hey, good to see you, Gary. Hope you're feeling better, man. Chiro Sounds. Lily Pond, the lovely Lily. Hello, Midwest Night Watchers. Who else? Country Boy Cryptids. Pam Smith. Hi, Pammy. Who else? They're starting to flow in. Pam Smith once again. James. So the same guys. You guys are slowly trickling in. The Blaza Booze Paranormal Podcast. That must be you, Krista.
Woohoo.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming. John
Anytime.
Tempering.
Anytime. Every Thursday.
Good to see you, John. Anella, the lovely Anella. Hello. What else? Who else? Scrolling down. Facebook user. Well, whoever you are, Facebook user, hi there to you as well. Glenn Dannison, frequently here in the chat. Thanks. And there's a few more just starting to tumble in. So, what I was thinking is the format of this show is typically an interview show, and we
Mhm.
have a lot of great guests.
Yeah.
I've decided to change up the format for this show just a little bit for the end of the month because I schedule for 3 different shows, and it's not that it's hard getting guests. It could be challenging, but I decided at the end of every month now on this show, what I'd like to do is go back and kind of recap each of the last 3 guests and kind of pull out what we gained from it and maybe
Right.
kind of recap it.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the month, we had Alec Pedikov
Yeah. That was a
from
great show.
from Small Town Monsters. We were talking about
Mhm.
the Alaskan Sasquatch.
Yeah.
That we had William Lunsford, Bigfoot researcher
Another
out
great
in
show.
Arkansas, monster hunter.
Yep.
Then, of course, last week we had Steve Stockton talk
Absolutely.
about all his cool
Beautiful.
stories. And
Yep.
of course, I fear we can maybe kind of recap the month and go over what we've learned from these people and what we might have
Yeah.
experienced over the last month. And also for the people out in chat, if you have any questions, we'll kind of open it up to you guys as well. If you have any questions about any of the shows or questions of me or Krista about anything,
Yeah.
I feel we kick back and have a pretty cool show, little audience participation.
Yeah.
And who knows if we're up to it, maybe at the top of the next hour, maybe we'll throw the link out there. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
This Brandy and I did this last Sunday. It was just the 2 of us, and it was nice. It was fun. It's a change. I liked it.
Change is good, and you always got to kind of rework how you do things because sometimes even if something's going well, I think you always have to evolve. And I know that I've noticed when it's just me and Tex or me and you
Mhm.
or Brandy or a panel of 3 of us,
Yeah.
people like that just as much as having a guest on. And I think
Fun.
they like that. And, with our amazing chat crowd, they come in, they hang out, they ask questions, they BS amongst
Yep.
each other. And it's just a good gathering. And we have great people. And I
We
like
do.
doing this for the people in chat. And it's,
Yep.
kick back for an hour and a half and forget about the woes of the world, right?
That's
We can
right.
talk about the woes of the cryptids, the paranormal.
There's a
The
lot
other
of
night,
that.
me and you had Kim Pageant on, right?
It's a great show.
Tuesday. And talk about the woes. I mean, yeah, we can even talk a
Mhm.
little about that. I can't
Mhm.
imagine
Me either.
being chased. I guess we'll start with that, even though I
Yeah.
mentioned the other three people. Being
Yeah.
chased when you were listening to her.
Hmm.
I know what I was thinking. I'll ask you. Being chased by a UFO, which was literally the size of a football field, 180 feet above her, and just following her, and she couldn't escape it. What were you thinking when she was telling us that story?
I was thinking, holy cow, because I personally could not imagine something like that. I've dealt with demons. I've been out looking for Sasquatch and Dogman. Give me one of them any day. UFOs scare me. Aliens, honestly, they scare me. And I don't know if it's because, people, they go to another dimension, a lot of these people, and that scares me. What if they don't let me come back home? It's always the unknown. At least if it's a dogman or something, I know they're just going to kill me and I go to heaven and I'm good. It's the unknown, I guess. What about you?
Yeah, well, with her, yeah, you were talking about she's good. She wasn't killed, right? I mean, we were talking about. Do you
Yeah,
think were you scared? No, I mean, she went about her day. Yeah,
right.
I was chased by an alien. I was abducted. You guys who missed that, she was
Yeah.
abducted by an alien. She was
Hmm.
quartered. You guys, this lady is on uh, a belt on a like a what do you call it? An assembly line type of belt.
Yeah.
She couldn't feel her arms, her legs.
Hmm.
She saw aliens. They were speaking to her. They were mind speaking
Right.
to her. And I don't know about you, Chris. I'd have thought, what the hell is going on here? I can't see my
Yeah.
arms or my legs. And
Right.
yet the lady after the show, well, during the show, I'm like, what did that feel like? And like you said, well, they didn't kill me, so I guess they weren't evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I couldn't imagine that. And, kudos to her for surviving all of this and going through all of this trauma, because you know what, honestly, I would have PTSD. It would affect me probably that bad.
oh, I know I would. I had
Mhm.
PTSD from an encounter. I tell you what, my Bigfoot encounter was crazy and scary. What
Mhm.
happened to her takes the cake. And right quickly, Pam Smith, I see you. I don't know if you see me. Send me the link to that. I'd like to check that out. Over to wherever I know you can get a hold of me somehow. I think Facebook. I
Yeah.
think we're friends. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, but the lady, nothing phased her. It seemed to me.
No, no. And
You know,
she was just, as bubbly and, I mean, she's got great aura about her, and I'm not so sure my aura would look that great,
yeah,
had I encountered all of that.
yeah. And for those of you that missed it, she was chased down by a UFO. Couldn't escape this thing. She was 15, and then several years later, in her 20s, I think maybe it was late 20s, the same UFO
Hmm.
abducts her. Now it takes her out of her bed,
Yeah.
beams her up on the spacecraft, and they, like I said, she was missing her arms and her legs. It was just unbelievable, and they were
Yeah.
talking to her,
Yeah. And she
and
wasn't frightened,
and
as you
she
said.
wasn't frightened.
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
was getting goosebumps listening to her.
You and me both. You and me both. I don't know. There's just something about the UFO and aliens that honestly I will say I'm scared of. That scares me.
What's your take on that too? Because I know Jason McLean, his opinion is aliens are demons, or they're just not right. I don't
Mhm.
think I agree with that. I think that I think there are other life forces, in the
Yeah.
galaxies,
Yeah.
and I think there's probably aliens that view us as being aliens. So I don't think an alien is necessarily a demon. Now demons might be posing as aliens, I'm sure,
Right. Right.
but I
And
think there's got to be other. I don't want to say forms of humanity as we're humans, but whatever an alien life would
yeah,
be, just they probably operate just like we do. I would think
right.
they're
I
socialized.
right. I feel like that they are another type of species. I don't feel like that they're demonic. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. But I don't knock anyone who thinks that maybe they are because maybe of their encounters or what they've experienced too. So, but my personal belief is that I think that they're another species of some type of human type, from another galaxy.
Well, yeah, I think it's just like you and I. We're sitting here chit chatting online, doing our thing, and I'm sure in another galaxy far, far away, not
Yeah.
quoting Star Wars. I'm sure there's a community of off-worlders,
Right.
which is I think pretty cool. I like using that term for aliens,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Off-worlders that they probably have their own communities, they probably have their own
Right.
cities. They
Yeah.
probably, it might not be like the cities that we live in, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that they've got forests. I'm sure that there's now I guess depending on your planet. Like Mars, when you think Mars, what do you think? The desert. Okay, now a bunch of people
Right.
live in the desert or what have you, right?
Right. A red
So
planet with a desert. That's what I think of when I think of Mars.
I do too.
Hmm.
And what do you speaking of Mars? Did you ever see the photo of the telescope got that photo of a humanoid looking face right on the face of Mars? Do you think? Did you ever see that?
No, I've never saw that.
Yeah, there's this picture right on Mars, and it looks like it's a big head of like a humanoid figure. Kind of looks more human like, but kind of strange. People say I thought that was a hoax, but I guess I was talking to
Hmm.
Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio, and he's telling me that no, that was that's actually there. And the
Wow.
funny thing in the crevices of this big face, there are actually
Yeah.
cities and communities that you can pick up on the telescope that are actually surrounding that big face.
Wow. I never heard of that.
Yeah, look it up. I got to send you the
Wow.
link.
Yeah. Wow.
And so yeah, I looked into that. It's pretty fascinating.
Hmm.
And just like we're talking about, we did the show before on the other side of the moon. What is on the other side of the moon, right? I was talking to a guy I didn't have on the show, but that's like a hub for spacecraft and all these other off-worlders. They
Right.
stop there and they travel there, and there's an actual city on the moon. In fact, they were talking about how when we got to the moon, we were told never to come
Hmm.
back from
Yeah.
some aliens.
Right.
And I know we went to the moon, but I don't think we got the full story on that either.
I don't either. There's a lot of conspiracy theories on that as well. Who knows? I don't know. I really don't know. It's just like I said, that alien stuff. I don't know a whole lot about it, and I think only because and really I probably should learn more about it, but I'm scared of it. And however, my friend Terry, she does the CE5, and I do want to try that sometime with her. But I don't know. I'm still learning on the UFO alien type stuff. And a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, when I see it, on Facebook or something, I scroll by it because it does scare me. So give me a ghost or a cryptid any day.
You know. Oh, right. And what do you think the purpose is too behind being abducted by an alien? What do you think their intent is?
I think a lot of the alien abductees, they're testing them or taking DNA or something, maybe to build a race, another race of their own, or to keep their own going. Is what I feel like. It's what I think. What do you think?
I don't know if it's about keeping their own race going because I think obviously they can reproduce.
Maybe to better it, maybe with some of our DNA mixed with some of theirs. Maybe they're trying to breed a perfect hybrid with everything. Maybe.
I think the main reason, yeah, I agree with that, and I also believe that I think one of their main purposes of paying a visit to the planet is for the preservation of Earth.
Hmm.
I think that they are, for the most part, a protector.
Hmm.
Like not to quote another show, what's that? The Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I think that the Earth is a resourceful
Hmm.
planet. I
Yeah.
think that they love our natural resources, and I do think they use them till this day.
Yeah.
Even though their technology is far superior,
Right.
but our planet has got everything that I think they can to help
Right.
sustain them and whatever.
But maybe, we also don't know what their planet has either, So why wouldn't their planet, if our planet's this good, why wouldn't their planet be this good too? I don't know. Just weird stuff goes
Well,
through.
like if you talk about Mars, maybe because from what we believe, there's very
Hmm.
little water, if any water on Mars, and
Yeah.
maybe they know, and maybe they use our oceans
Yeah.
as fuel,
Yeah.
some sort of substance. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is speculation on our parts, but the more longer I do this, the more questions it brings up.
Oh
But
yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's extremely interesting. I think it's extremely interesting that she's had contact with these things. I asked her a
Mhm.
question. What do you think the purpose is? Right. Of course, she never asked him that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but then again, when you're up there too, I would feel like if you were an abductee, you're not thinking of asking them questions about, why are you, coming to save your planet? I feel like I would be freaking out and wanting to know, why am I
Yeah.
here? Can I go home? Type
Yeah.
thing.
And now that's a great question. But how does abducting us help save our planet? I don't I don't think it does save our planet. I do think they like to perform experimentation, and as Krista
Mhm.
said, maybe for to build a hybrid.
Yeah.
We've heard stories about human beings being inseminated with aliens to
Mhm.
create a different species.
Yeah.
I think that abducting us isn't necessary to save the planet. I think it's to explore basically a
Yeah.
scientific experiment, right? To see how
Right.
we function. I
Right.
do though think on the flip side of that they want to keep our planet preserved. I mean, cattle mutilations, and they abduct cattle, right?
Mhm.
They experiment on those.
Right, and that's the thing too. These cattle are not like torn to shreds. There's precise organs that have been removed, or precise cuts. Somebody that knows what they're going in looking for, which I find interesting.
Yeah, I do too. I find it all fascinating, and that's why I'm going to try to gather more guests when it has to pertain to
Yeah.
the abductions, because there's a lot of people that have been abducted, and I believe that people do get abducted. I do believe people see Bigfoot and all this,
Hmm.
and if we want to,
Yeah.
and I
Somebody in
do.
the chat asked about Bigfoot and UFOs being connected too.
Oh, for sure. And Anella says it seems that what they do to us is of a benefit to them and not us. Absolutely. Again, I'm not pro alien. I'm not pro getting abducted. I think there
Right.
is, yeah, it has nothing to benefit the human race. I think
Right.
the only benefit for aliens, in my opinion, only is just to preserve the planet Earth.
Yeah.
We've heard about the stories about that that the government won't release is the fact that supposed nuclear warheads were set off during the Cold War,
Yeah.
but they were mysteriously shut down and
Yeah.
could not be released, right? And if
Hmm.
you talk to people that study ufology or if they're into the science behind it, they think that off-worlders did this
Yeah.
because they did not want the Earth to go away, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, that stuff just really it fascinates me, but yet scares me. So.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was such a great show. If you guys didn't see it,
Mhm.
this lady makes a lot of sense. It was a great show,
It was.
and as I said, we can circle back. At the beginning of the month, we had Alec Pedikov on from Small Town Monsters on
Mhm.
one of his recent investigations. He did that great. You guys go check that out if you haven't.
Mhm.
He just did a great documentary.
Yes, he did.
And the thing that I was really made me think was all the weird sounds that they would hear at night, the baby crying,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know.
that kind of, I've heard that before too. People say that, and however, if you remember, he said it was just the women that heard the baby crying. It wasn't even the men. So,
Yeah,
hmm,
yeah, and it's like when we were talking about that,
yeah,
two women, separate occasions, not even with
right,
each other,
right,
heard the crying
yeah,
and not the men. And so I immediately thought mating, wanting to mate, or that's what just the first thing that
mhm,
came to my mind because I've heard that before as well. That's not the first time I heard that about
yeah.
babies crying because Bigfoot, from my understanding, they can mimic just about anything.
I've heard that too, and also, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, since doing these shows and stuff, and I've talked to people where they say Bigfoot has like mated or like taken a woman and raped her, and that just kind of maybe I don't know.
Well, there were stories. There's an old story that goes back way back to the 1800s about a Bigfoot that actually captured a woman, supposedly impregnated this woman, and this was in Russia.
Yeah.
And this woman bore a child. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this child was what I guess back then they would call a wild person, or
Yeah.
a I think that was the term, wild person, but it was both human and in something else. I guess I'll
Something,
just leave it at that.
right.
And but this being, I'm not going to call it a creature because a human being gave birth to something from
Right.
a Sasquatch, supposedly,
Sure. Yeah.
allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't survive very long. I think it lived about 8 or 9 years, and then they
Wow.
buried it somewhere. And then supposedly the Russian government had extracted DNA from the bones, and they supposedly have this documented somewhere. So I'm not even sure about that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's scary. And you hear of I've heard several stories of things like this happening. Not anybody necessarily getting pregnant, but where the Sasquatch, do steal women.
So
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy stuff out there, man.
the more I'm glad got involved with this. I'm glad that I had my encounter when I did,
Hmm.
because the more I do this is why I love doing this, because there's so much things that we don't know out there, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
and I just want to learn. I'm like a sponge, you
Hmm.
know. And what I love is none of us are experts, and each and every day you
Right.
do a show, or each and every day I talk to somebody different. You
Yep.
hear all these accounts, you hear all these different
Yeah.
experiences. And I always was growing up. I was a guy. I was liked monsters growing up. I was brought up on that
Hmm.
stuff. I knew about Bigfoot. I saw the Patterson Gimlin film at a young age, and I
Hmm.
thought, even as a kid, I figured they existed.
Yeah.
But when life goes on, you really don't dive into it to the extent that we all do today.
Right.
And until I had that encounter, and then it
Yeah.
set me on my path. And you know what? The rabbit hole never ends.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Do you regret ever having your Bigfoot encounter? Or did it open your mind to, maybe something that's turned positive
Yeah,
now?
no, well, again, for those who know the story, when it happened,
You had a
then
traumatic one.
it was
That's why I was
traumatic.
asking.
It was
Yeah.
just traumatic, and like I said, I thought that the Bigfoot, when it yelled and screamed, and I got knocked
Mhm.
back,
Yeah.
my girl fell off the boat, and then 2 months later she died. I right then and there, I would tell you this: I wish it never would have happened.
Hmm.
I don't believe that she died because of Bigfoot. I've
Right.
kind of gotten that out of my mind after doing the
Hmm.
research and talking to people the last 5 years. So I'm glad it did happen. Not, and I don't mean that she died. I'm glad that I had that, because I
Right.
think it opened my mind. And like you said, after I had that, my mind is, I could see things as a kid
Yeah.
growing up anyways, but this really heightened my awareness.
Yeah.
Again, it's like you can see a lot more things that you never would have seen if you didn't have that eye-opening, literally
Right.
third eye-opening experience, which to me, I believe that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it. I was just curious because, things have changed. I mean, like now, you and I both, we do this not only, to help educate others, but ourselves too. So we learn every day when we do this, from others. So that's why I was asking. I was just curious.
No, and it's good, and I love doing this today because
Mhm.
I think I said this on another show. We're all put here for a purpose, right?
Mhm.
I've done a lot of things in my life. I started out my life working for Ford Motor Company, right? As
Mhm.
over there when I got out of college, and then I opened up my own business. And then it's funny because when I opened my business and I had that encounter, I shut down. I didn't go to work for 6 months. I told my bar manager, "Hey, you know what? Run it for me.
Mhm.
Don't rip me off." And that's that. And then I just learned a lot more, right? And
Mhm.
then even in my bar, I started seeing ghosts and apparitions. So
Right.
after the encounter, I seen a lot of things, but I was very bitter when
Mhm.
when when the creature, and I call it a creature, not. And again, no offense, I think there are friendly Bigfoot. I think there's the friendly forest giant, but I also think there's also, like human beings, there's good and bad in all of us.
Yeah.
And that goes with any cryptid, any alien for that matter, probably
Mhm.
any spirit. There's good and bad spirits, right, Krista?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it's a learning experience, and I'm just a
Mhm.
sponge to this, and I'm still a novice at this. I've
Yeah.
been doing this really for 2 years, and the knowledge that I gained, and I think it betters you as a person overall too. So I think it
Mhm.
was looking back to answer the question once again. Yeah, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I had that because now in my third phase of work is
Mhm.
investing all my time and energy in all these subjects.
Right. Yep, I agree. I don't regret, my paranormal encounters as a kid either, I mean, and some of them was pretty kind of freaky, but I just it's made me want to know more and more, and then here I am today. And
Yeah,
I
and
still
again,
don't have any answers,
you know, and I don't think that I'm really seeking answers. I think I was seeking answers years ago, but today, what I love doing this today is helping other people,
Hmm.
right? Thank you, Rocky.
Yes, thank you, Rocky.
Um, my thing is this. The one goal that I have is to help other people
Hmm.
because when I had an encounter, I had nowhere to go. I was
Right.
lost. I was beside myself.
Hmm.
No, I couldn't really tell friends or family or
Right.
people at the workplace because you look like you'd feel foolish, you'd be
Yeah.
ridiculed, judged until I finally found a good Bigfoot community, and they said, "Hey, Rob, you can start talking about this." So once I started talking about it, I felt better about
Hmm.
myself. I felt I wasn't going crazy. So the
Yeah.
premise behind why I wanted to start this show, along with Tex, was to spread the good word and help
Right.
people in need. Because I remember when no one was there for me, what a
Mhm.
dark, lonely place I
Yeah.
was in.
Yeah.
So when I do my subscriber encounters for people who want to be anonymous, they at least
Hmm.
it's a good therapy. When you have people on, like Kim was on talking about her experiences, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
And there's a place where you can go where I'm not going to pass judgment. Tex is
Hmm.
not, Krista is not,
No.
Brandy, and so on and so forth, because it's a safe environment. So I wanted to create a safe environment for
Hmm.
like the people in our chat. They know the people in our chat that come in, they know they're in a safe place. They know that we're not going to think that they're crazy nuts
Right.
because we all are on the same wave level when it comes to these things, whether you
Mhm.
have an experience or not, right?
I
There are
believe most
people,
people out here in our chat, had some sort of encounter, be it ghost,
yeah,
Bigfoot, UFO, in one way or another. Otherwise they
yeah,
wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and even if they didn't like it or have it,
Mhm.
or not like it, if even they didn't have an experience, they are open-minded folks. They
Right.
want to know what else is out there because there's got to be more than just us.
Right. Yep.
And I'm proof of that there is more than just us. And
Hmm.
so are you with what you've experienced on the
Right.
paranormal side.
Right.
I mean, what changed your mind about life or humans when you had your first paranormal encounter? That had to been something strange for you, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my first encounter that I remember when I was a child. I had one of those. I don't know. I was born in 1971, so in the 70s they had those canopy beds for kids, for girls,
Uh-huh.
and I had one. And I remember if I would lay in the middle of it, and keep in mind it's a twin bed, if I laid in the middle of it, that the monsters couldn't reach me. However, I understand now that they weren't monsters. I've had abilities and didn't know it. So that's how it started out for me. I was scared, and I used to ask my mom and dad, "Let me go to sleep first before you go to sleep." That way, I felt protected. And then it went into high school. I would see. It was actually a ghost. A guy walked through the hallway, just plain as you and me, but he was old. I mean, he was 80 plus, and as I've progressed, I have a friend who lives in a very, very active haunted house. And I stayed with her for a while, and I encountered things myself there that I couldn't explain. So it's really changed, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of things. It's not just ghosts. And then, when I had my Bigfoot encounter, and it just grows. It just keeps rolling, and more and more. The more it seems like the more I dig into, I don't care what it is, paranormal, whatever, more things happen, if that makes sense.
Well, more things have certainly happened to me. Now, what's cool about what happened to me is this: when I was growing up, I saw ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw Bigfoot about the age
Mm-hmm.
of 8 or 9 when I was up north. Today, I'm confident that it was after my experience. But you see, the funny thing is, until I had my encounter,
Yeah.
I take that back. Me and the wife, when I was married, we did see shadow people in my house, and just because we
Yeah.
brought in artifacts that were
Yeah.
haunted.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I believe that experience was pre Bigfoot, so I knew that because that there were ghosts, and I kind of started looking back on my life. I said, you know what I seen growing up, we're actually ghosts now. Because my mom and dad, as I said, they would always tell you you were
Yeah.
just dreaming, you were just there's no such thing as monsters.
Mhm.
And they're
Yep.
telling you that as parents, as good parents should, to protect
Right.
you.
Right. They didn't want to scare you. And I was told the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So as kids, we grow up believing everything's make believe. So
Yeah.
frankly, I thought everything was make believe. Monster movies, alien movies, Bigfoot movies, make believe.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Me too.
Now, in the back of my mind, I thought such things did probably exist, but it's like
Mhm.
something that you're not going to find it, you're not going to see it.
Right.
See, I guess the thing is, until it happens to you, particularly when
Mhm.
I saw a physical 9 foot creature
Right.
that looked like a human, but then it metamorphosized into, I always say, a demon. I had a crazy
Right.
encounter. I'm not
Mhm.
even sure today. I talked to Robin McCrae. She says it was a Bigfoot. Duke thinks it was a Bigfoot. But still, I was there and I seen this thing, and it really, to this day,
Yeah.
just it haunted me for a very long time.
Mhm.
Today, it doesn't. I
Mhm.
embrace the fact that I seen it now.
Right.
I always say that I embrace the weird now because
Mhm.
the weird isn't so weird, is it?
No, it's not. To me, it's normal. You know,
Yeah.
most of my family, they know what I do, and a lot of them ask a lot of questions. But they're scared of it, and I can understand that. Even my two grown children, uh, they like to hear the stories, but yet they don't want any part of it. So yeah, it's crazy how this is all turned around for us. With your encounter and my paranormal background. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very crazy. And let me ask you, when you had come across people, like when you go to a haunted house and
Mhm.
investigate, you and Brandy, and do you like first get the history on these things? I mean, when you go, are you going in with that open mind, or there's some places you visit that you think might just be an actual story? How do you know when something is real when it's not? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll just say for like my experience in doing private cases, because that's our, where
Yeah.
when it goes back into helping people and we don't charge for our services. And, we go to these locations. When we do this, I used to go in blind. I wouldn't have a location. I wouldn't have an address, nothing. And then I would do a walkthrough and take my notebook and write down all of my notes. And then there was always someone on the team who verifies like history of that house or that location and can verify, what kind of things, I picked up on or what the homeowner's saying, that kind of thing. So yeah, we verify a lot of stuff. And that's, like I said, private cases, we want to know who owned that house. So we will go back, trace back to the original owner or land.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% because, people probably don't realize this. I do the subscriber or the emailer
Mhm.
encounter stories. And I did, even till this day, the best one I've done so far as people watching was Dogman Island, right?
Mhm.
Which I had to vet this because I just don't read all these randomly. Most of them I do because I do believe, and if you have
Right.
a story that has to be told, I'm going to tell it. And
Mhm.
whether I believe it or not is really immaterial to me
Right.
because I wasn't there. So I cannot tell you if you're right, you're wrong, or giving me a line
Right.
just because. And frankly, if I do a 15-minute story on my channel, the person's getting no credit. Number one, they're
Right.
anonymous. I'm not
Yeah.
paying these people. They're not getting 15 minutes of
Mhm.
fame. So to me, right there, that's one positive. So
Right.
that's why I say, you know what? I'll read this, and some are
Mhm.
good, some are scary, some are boring. I get it, but they all should be heard. But
Right.
when I was doing Dogman Island, I swear I had to really investigate this because talking about the underground cellars in their
Mm-hmm.
house that led under the Detroit River, that led to an island, uninhabited, uncharted territory where they
Mm-hmm.
found the Dogman. And again, that's a 20-minute story
Yeah.
on the channel. If you guys haven't
Yeah.
seen it. So I literally went to the library, I went online, and I actually
Mm-hmm.
investigated this house,
Yeah.
and I found that not only this house, but other houses on the island built during Prohibition. This is not the only
Wow.
house that had a tunnel that led underneath because during Prohibition, that's how they bootlegged their
Mm-hmm.
booze.
Yeah.
So I knew right there this guy was not making this up because I
Right.
checked it out. I actually have the address of the house and looked up the house. I got a buddy that works
Wow.
in real estate and titles and deeds and all that. He kind of gave me the information.
Yeah.
So this house exists.
Mm-hmm.
This island exists because all you have to do is look on Google Earth. But
Yeah.
I know the island exists because in Grosse Ile, Michigan, there are about 4 or 5 island chains that are off of the big island.
Yeah. Wow.
And in fact, I'm going to go there this summer. Me and a buddy of mine are taking a boat out there. We're going to go on that island and then
Wow.
further investigate it because that's actually close by me. It's a 30-minute car ride. And then he's got a boat, and we're going to jump on his boat, and we're going to go down there and check this out. So if somebody sends me a story, Chris, I'm not anybody to judge them. Just
Mm-hmm.
like I was scared to tell my story, I figured people would
Right.
judge me. And you know what? I've got nothing but positive feedback from most
Right.
98% of the people I tell a story to.
Yeah.
They like to hear my story over and over again. I think it's kind of, boy, haven't you heard my story enough? People love it
Yeah.
because it did happen, and it's got some heartfelt into it,
Right.
but it still answers a lot of these questions. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these stories, a lot of these shows we do, it's all about the data. Don't tell me the 100,000 people have had the same experience. Don't
Right.
tell me they haven't. No one's making this up. They're not getting fame. They're not getting
Right.
fortune.
Right.
Hell, you write a book on Bigfoot, you're not going to be a millionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I just, like you said, people need a safe place to go and either tell their encounters, or for me, it's like these haunted locations, these houses, and people, they go to people and they're shamed, and that's wrong,
Yeah.
honestly, when we go into a location, it's not that we don't believe you that your house is haunted or these things are happening, but we have to find this out for ourselves, by research, and maybe there's a natural explanation of, why the door is shutting by itself, or,
Yeah.
so we look for all the obvious first before we
Yeah.
just jump to ghost. It's haunted, and I
Absolutely.
think people need to understand that, and especially if we can explain it for a natural reason, that puts our mind at ease a lot too. So, and it's people like you and I that people can tell our stories, and we don't shame them, as you said.
Yeah. And Gene Hudson, thank you so much for that. Yeah, with my mom and all that, I do appreciate
Mhm.
that. And I apologize, I can't acknowledge everybody in chat with just me and Krista, but hello to everybody. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining. I love you all. Thanks for joining. And once again, thanks, Gene, because there's only certain people I can see. So so hello to everybody.
Mhm.
Because we're streaming on my channel and Texas channel, so sometimes I can't see it. So I got the phone going, and
Yep.
we're getting
Me
into
too.
these stories about. Yeah, bottom line, I do this to help other people. I really do.
Yep. Me too.
I'm not going to get rich off doing this. And you know what? I made my money. I got some money put away when I sold the bar, but and I
Mhm.
don't want to go out and get another job. But
Right.
that's just another
Yeah.
story. But I love this. I think I was put here to do this now.
Mhm.
I've gone through my third stage with my life as far as work goes. Worked in a
Mhm.
factory, owned a bar. Now I do this, and this is
Yeah.
something to continue to do as long as I can,
You can do it.
financially do it. Right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
'cause it's not about me. It's about the people, the
Right.
people sitting in chat, the
Mhm.
people listening later.
Yeah, and that's me too. I mean, I've spent thousands of dollars out of my own pocket going to these locations and helping people and getting a hotel room because it's too far to drive back, and just it's because it's what we do. That's what I feel like my calling is to help people in both realms.
You know,
Hmm.
and it's really a shame too. A lot of people dropping about the government, and that is a shame.
Hmm.
And
Oh
again,
yeah.
is it? and you know this for a fact, even when you talk about these subjects, we were talking about Dogman, and I had a guy on the show who was for supposedly ex-military, and we start and after the show, thanks to Nella,
Thank you.
um, after the show, we were talking. He said, "Okay, I can tell you guys something about Dogman that I couldn't air publicly, right?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Okay." So as soon as he's opened his mouth, you know what happened? Our live stream ended between it was me and Jason and him. It
Hmm.
was off air. The show ended, so it
Yeah.
was just the three of us chit chatting on the screen. He was okay, you guys. I could probably tell you a little tidbit about what I know that's
Yeah.
classified about Dogman.
Right.
So me and Jason are like this, listening in, right?
Hmm.
All of a sudden, our
Gone.
internet went gone,
Yep. Yep.
gone. I called the guy on the phone, went right to voicemail. Jason, right to voicemail.
Hmm.
And I tell you what, that was not a coincidence. As soon as we started talking, as soon as he hinted that he was going to tell us something that the public is not supposed to
Right.
know, but he knew, boom.
Yep. Absolutely.
Scott Moran, yeah, he was there that day. Yes, Scott.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they listen in, I think, to all of us, and especially, and I wouldn't say it's maybe the people, because I know my friends that have had encounters and do have the powers that be issues. I don't know if it's because I don't know. They just don't. As Barton Nunley, I'm going to quote him on this. They don't want the truth to be told, and
No,
that's the
they
truth.
don't. No, they don't. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Then again, how many people could handle the truth? You know, I think you got to give uh, humanity more credit.
Mhm.
But then again, when we had the big pandemic, everybody was, oh my God, the sky's falling. Yeah,
Right,
sure, it was some serious stuff. I get it, but everybody's buying like the toilet paper. You
right.
couldn't go anywhere, and then we're out of toilet paper. People
Toilet
are
paper
panicking.
or Clorox wipes.
Yeah, you couldn't find nothing. So what
Yep.
if they said, yeah, aliens live amongst us? Do you think there would be a lot of people going nuts?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
think I think so too. Now I give the human race credit, but people would
Mhm.
probably fall off their rocker.
Yeah,
People would start talking about the end of the world. They'd start talking about pre- we're going to be, it's the end of the world type stuff
yeah,
with aliens on our planet. Aliens have been walking on our planet for the last 1,000 years. Right
yeah,
now,
yeah. Well, and here's the thing too. I feel like uh, the three-letter agencies. Um, in some of these huge parks, there's so many encounters of people going missing, or there are encounters where these creatures have killed people, and I feel maybe I don't know. I think they need to give the public warning. It's not a place to take the Girl Scouts to go to in some of these places it's just I don't know. I don't know. But then again, like you said, then everybody would probably be in an uproar. I agree with you on that. However, people need to know to protect their families and stuff at these places.
oh, I'm all for about protecting my family. If the aliens were
Mhm.
here, I'm not going to tell you what. I'm not just saying
Yeah.
this to sound like a big stud. I'm going to be concerned,
Yeah.
especially if it's made public that hey, they
Heck
walk
yeah.
amongst us.
Yeah. Me.
Certainly, and in fact,
Yeah.
if that's the case, it probably explains a lot of different things too that have happened to all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The
I just
thing
feel
that I go
yeah.
ahead.
I was gonna say, I just feel like they should, some of these hot spots per se, they need some warnings, out there. Hey, don't go walking off alone. Don't tent camp. Not the place for the Girl Scouts to go to, type thing. Don't go
No,
unarmed. You know.
I tell you what. Here's what I don't want to have happen. I'm not gonna. I don't want Bigfoot to be proven. I think I know it exists. And I think the people
Hmm.
listening know Bigfoot exists. I
Right.
think we all know that.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I want the government to prove and make full disclosure on it because I could tell you right now, much like I talked about the aliens, I think that people would go out looking for these things, hunting them down. And I
Yeah.
want this, I want the species,
Yeah.
or however you want to view them, protected, right? I don't
Yeah.
want nothing harmful to happen to them. Just because I had a crappy experience don't mean I think that they're bad. Like I said at the beginning of the show, there's good, there's bad. I
Yeah.
certainly don't want somebody going out and blasting one of these things, because what I saw initially was a human being standing on shoreline. It just happened to be 9 foot
Mhm.
tall, covered in hair. It looked like a person with Down
Yeah.
syndrome. But then when it opened its mouth, it turned into something. It morphed
Yeah.
into a demon. Again, I always say a demon was not a demon, but that's the first thing that went in my mind when I
Mhm.
saw it. Like,
Right.
or it had a big tribal mask on from one of these from Africa, perhaps. Just very
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
And today I don't think that
Right.
it had, again. It didn't plan on doing anything nefarious,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it threw off my equilibrium. I saw in black and white. Cindy
Right.
knocked off the boat. What are you supposed to think? Did I just saw a friendly foresight? No, of course I didn't.
And when maybe that goes back to one of the questions I've started to get back to, with the UFO Bigfoot connection,
Where you see orbs, a lot of Bigfoot appear, right? That's
Yeah.
a fact. I mean, that's the fact.
Well, I personally seen something peering out of trees, and Letitia can validate. She's in chat. She was there too. We could see something coming in and out of the trees, and then after that, we saw orbs, and throughout the evening. So that was, what were they?
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
want to get back. I started something that Gene had asked. I'm going to answer this for Gene a little later, but we're coming up on the 5-minute break
Yeah.
already. See how fast it goes when it's just
I
kicking
know,
back.
right? Right?
Awesome show. We will be back in 5 minutes. You guys, please don't
Sounds
go
good.
anywhere. Get a refill on your beverage, or get a snack. After all, it is brunch time. It is
Yeah,
brunch.
it
Chris
is.
and I will be back to shoot it with you guys, and
Yep.
we'll try to get into some questions. Yeah, in a minute after the end of the 5-minute break.
Sounds good.
Brunch with BMR and Krista.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Thank you to everybody for joining Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob along with Krista. We're just kicking back and chilling today, talking about some encounters, some experiences from past shows and whatever you guys. We're going to answer some of your questions. I see some out in the chat. We're going to get you. First off, thank you, Anella, and thank you to Rocky for your super chats. It is really most appreciated. I thank you for that. Again, the super chat's open long after the show ends. The super thanks is always open, so it's something new YouTube put out, so that's pretty cool thing that they added. And you're all very cool. If I didn't say hi to you, don't mean I don't love you. I just didn't see you. And don't forget, Mondays, Texas Front Porch, 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays is Van Buren Variety, 8 in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does Mysterious Library on Untold AM Radio. That, of course, is at 10 in the East. Wednesday, Jason McLean questions everything, 9 o'clock in the East. Thursday is right back here with Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. Blondes, the Booze, the Paranormal Podcast tonight, 9 o'clock in the East. Thursdays. Fridays, you need a little woo with the booze. They got the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo. Friday nights, 10 o'clock. 9 o'clock in the East on Friday. There. Saturday, Texas debut with him and Daniela Diva, a true crime show. It's called Infamous Minds. Go check them out. I think that's dropping tomorrow, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or Saturday, 2 or 3 in the afternoon. That'll be a Saturday program for us all. Jessica Jones, don't forget about her on Space Out Radio on the weekends, 10 o'clock in East, Saturday and Sunday. Thank you ever so much for, again, the super chats, and thanks for joining us as we just kick back today. And so we ended, yeah, I want to bring up some Gene said really quick. I got to find it right quick.
I start a couple questions.
Yeah, I start a few more. Sorry if we can't get to all the questions. Okay, Gene, I don't know. Gene says, Rob, he had the same crappy experience you had, and his family was there too. I don't know who she was referring to, but yeah, the experience was crappy for me on the onset, of course. And today I don't hold that against what happened. Right. I talked to Robin McCrae, a lot of beautiful person. She communicates with Bigfoot. And, Robin McCrae on the show told me that she mind spoke with my Bigfoot. In fact, his name was Denali. So if you guys who ever missed that show, it was fantastic. We've done 2 of them. And she told me that the reason that the Bigfoot, you roared at me, screamed at me, all in unison to me and Cindy, was not because he meant us any harm, because we were actually in the area of where his children were.
Wow.
So it was something that he was protecting his family.
Mm-hmm. And then you
Now,
hear it like that, and then it makes you think, oh man.
Well, hey, listen, she told me that during a live show, and she just came out and just told me that. She was, oh, by the way, Denali says hi to you, Rob. I'm like, who the hell's Denali? We're in the middle of the
Wow.
show. Now the blue, I go, who the hell's Denali, Robin? Well, it's the Bigfoot experience. It's the
Wow.
Bigfoot that you saw. I'm like,
Wow.
what? I think Gene was there too. I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hilarious. I was like befuddled. And here's the thing that I'm thinking in my mind, though, because you got to have I have an open mind, but I do have that skeptical mind, because you have to question things, right?
Right.
But she was telling me things, and I knew that Robin McCrae is the real deal, because she told me things that I never told anybody. Everyone's heard my encounter, so somebody can, if you're really smart, you can break down an encounter, right? And you can say things that you heard from my story.
Right.
But she told me things that I never told anybody, which was confirmation for me that, number one, people do have abilities to speak with these things.
And she's the real deal.
And she's the real deal. And she told me things that's the first time I met the woman. And I'm like, holy cow, Robin. So we had a follow-up show on that. And yeah, so according to Robin, the Bigfoot Denali meant no harm. Or Delano, it was. Not Delano, I think. Not Denali's my truck. Delano is the name of the Bigfoot. And I believe her. But my thing is this: I still have, it's still you had to be there, you guys. You just had to be in my shoes that day. There's no other way I can explain it. I still think there was something odd about this thing.
And then, like if she said, that you were close to his family, me as a mom wanting to protect my kids as well. So then it makes you think, okay, well, I can understand that, maybe, it didn't know your intentions. Maybe not making light of your encounter at all. However,
Well, here's the thing too about that, and I think we've all come across this. I think Bigfoot does know your intentions. Well, let's just say, and I say this because I've heard it so many times, and my intentions were just to do some fishing. I just think we got really close, because my intentions, again, the years dating Cindy, we never talked about Bigfoot at all. I had the paranormal encounters with my wife, 10 years earlier, but she and I never spoke once about Bigfoot as a couple together.
Right.
So my intention was, hey, get some sun, show her how to fish, have a good time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the mind doesn't process this. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see something that could pound you into the ground. We were 90 feet away. That's not come I have such a great description of it.
Close. And maybe had you not just focused on the one, maybe you would have seen others there with it and just didn't even, you weren't, you know what I'm saying? You were focused on that one being.
Absolutely, I was. I couldn't take my eyes off it. And then I was stunned and paralyzed and couldn't even move. Yeah. It was just an encounter that, I guess it would have been more pleasurable had, she not died. And I don't and again, I will reiterate this, you guys. I don't believe that was the reason.
Right.
I just think there was something else going on with her. And that's that, again, I've said that many times, but that's why what makes the story so intriguing,
Right.
So, yeah, I am, as again, like you said earlier, I am kind of grateful that, it happened, really. Not the death, again, the Bigfoot encounter or whatever it was that I saw. Because I do think there are things out there, and maybe you could touch on this, Krista, more so than I could, but I think there are things out there that pretend to be things that they're not. Like if you know that, let's say that you're a Bigfoot researcher and you're out in your area doing research and you're just focused on Bigfoot. Do you think, Krista, that there are things in the forest that know what your intention is to look for evidence of Bigfoot. So they pretend they're a different entity and they pretend that they're Bigfoot to kind of trap you because they have a different intention for you.
I do believe that only because of studying demonology. They can portray themselves as anything. And, and a lot of times it's the elderly or it's children, because who do we trust? We trust the elderly and we trust children. You want to help them. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think maybe not so much Bigfoot, but maybe, I'm not saying a demonic entity couldn't portray itself as a Bigfoot. If that's what you're out there looking for, then maybe it will show itself as a friendly Bigfoot, just to get your attention as a means to move in closer to you, or get you to invite it in.
So switching gears in, like in your field of your study, your expertise, but what you study, I mean, what you're into, what you've been doing. Again, I don't say anybody's an expert because we're just scratching the surface, whether you're 10 years in or 20 years in my opinion.
Yeah.
But do you think, like, there's what they call that, Krista, the trickster? Like, let's say you're in an investigation and something is trying. Let's say that you're talking with a spirit that is pretending to be maybe one of your client's grandparents, and they want to get in touch with their grandparents. Do you think that sometimes it's really not the grandparent and it's some nefarious thing that's trying to get over on you?
Absolutely. I actually experienced this myself. We were using what's called a ghost box, and that's where it just it runs radio frequency waves, and words can come through. You can ask questions. And I was at the Ray County Museum in Richmond, Missouri, and in the basement, and I heard my grandma come over the ghost box. And I got excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, my granny's here. And she named every one of her grandkids, not only the biological grandkids, but the two girls that I adopted. And she wasn't alive for when we adopted the girls. And I got pretty excited. However, I quickly realized that was not my grandma. That was a trickster trying to get me to, open myself up, invite them in, oh, Granny, come see me. And, well, you invite it, there they are. So I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah. And, and if you're a novice to this, how do you know? I mean, how do you know that you're not being tricked? Like, you probably can tell, like you just did, but how does, like,
I mean, that's honestly, that's a good question, just because, I tell people who are new, to going out into the paranormal world, go with experienced people and get some knowledge that way, because most people who's been doing it a long time, they're pretty good in deciphering, what's truly there. So I feel like, it's I personally know, just because when the demonic is around, I get dizzy and I feel like I'm going to pass out. However, a ghost, even a nasty ghost, I don't get that way. So, and as Lily Pond just said, trust your gut. It never lies. And she is absolutely correct.
Every time that I went against my instincts and my gut, I was wrong.
Yep.
Probably 99% of the time.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I do tell people that, if your gut's telling you to go left, but you want to go right, by golly, you better go left, It's
almost like you're going against the paradigm that was set up for you.
Yeah.
You know not to do this, but you do it anyway.
Right.
Just because you're going to challenge something. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose that challenge.
Oh, yeah. 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 So there's, even like the researching for cryptids, when people, are new to that, I haven't been doing that long. Brandy and I haven't been, and we've been going with people who's been doing it for many years, and I appreciate that, because I wouldn't want to go out there and, go looking for a Bigfoot myself by myself, because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Unless your name is Tex.
Yeah, unless your name is Tex. But he's been doing it long enough, I believe, and he's had his own encounters. So
yes,
I wouldn't really call him a rookie.
Well, he's not a rookie, but by yourself still, in the forest by yourself still, even if you're just going camping, is not a good idea. Because what if you need a partner to?
Right.
What if you fell and broke a leg?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and you end up dying if no one knew where you were, or with not a partner.
Yeah.
And hi Terry Brown, and And Ella says something really cool, and I believe this wholeheartedly. She says animals are great ways of telling what is going on. Do you know that my buddy's got a German Shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
and every time, like if he back in our younger days when he would throw these parties, he's
Mm-hmm.
had several German Shepherds. You know, every time that people would come over the house, how a dog will come up to you, it'll lick you, it'll be around you, it's very friendly, jumps on you.
Yeah.
And then there's certain people that come over your house where the
Right.
dog growls, wants nothing to do with them. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, the dog will get close to the owner and
Yeah.
stick by them, like they're
Mm-hmm.
protecting them because they know that the person over there, there's something not right with them. And I know this as a fact. This happens so many times, not so many times, but there were certain people in my buddy's family that were not good people. And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, as it plays out, they ended up going to jail for for being not
Right.
for being criminals, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And and that's a good reason too, maybe to bring a dog with you when you go out looking for
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They say if your dog doesn't like someone, you better pay attention, and that I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah, and Lily Ponks, I know Lily knows a lot about pets and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs don't like fearful or angry people. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you ever notice
Yeah.
a person does not like who does not like dogs, but if you got a person they're scared of
Mm-hmm.
dogs for whatever reason,
Right.
the dog is nervous. You know,
Right.
and if you're nervous, the dog is nervous. Therefore, the dog is not going to like you, or they're going to
Right.
be not cool with you, right?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
if you come up and embrace a dog, and even if you're scared, let's say it's a pit bull. A lot of people are scared of pit bulls. Well, you go up to it and pet it, and say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, buddy, what's going on?" They're kind of cool. I mean, I don't believe all this stuff about they're bred
I
to
mean, they're
kill.
my
Rottweiler. We
grandparents.
had that with Rottweilers. So I owned a Rottweiler in my early 20s. That
Yeah.
dog would you'd come over, and if you weren't scared of it, he was your best friend. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't buy that. What Lily says, I believe to be very true.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
of course, these ones that run wild in the city of Detroit that are pit bulls, no, I'm not going to trust, as far as
No.
you can throw them because
But
that's different. They're
yeah.
a wild dog with no owner,
Yeah.
loose in the streets.
Right. Right. And it doesn't matter the breed.
No, it could be a poodle.
Right.
My
Exactly.
brother, we're sitting on. We were little kids, and he said my aunt Hildegard, right? That's how old these people were. He sat in her red velvet chair. He's about 5 or 6. We're visiting. My mom and dad took us over there. And man, Aunt Hildegard, that name sounds just how she looked. She looked like, ugh, not very attractive. Sorry, Aunt Hilda. But, my brother, that poodle, a little poodle, jumped
Mhm.
up and bit him on the nose because he was sitting in Fluffy's velvet red chair.
Right.
Come on.
Yep. Oh, I
You
know.
know,
Yeah. It like I said, it doesn't matter the breed. And poodles are known to be pretty friendly. I've had several
yeah.
myself. Yeah.
And then you got the little, was that the Chihuahua? They like to hang out your ankles.
Yeah.
Now,
Not
I
a
get it. Some
chihuahua.
people
They
don't,
will eat you. They will at least
they
try
will,
eating you.
but yeah, that used to be the Taco Bell mascot. But I tell you what, and I will admit to this, I don't like some little dog frolicking on my ankles all day long either. It does get
No,
annoying after a
it
while.
does.
Come
Yeah.
on, get away, But I'm
Yeah.
not going to kick it or be mean to it. I'll
Yeah.
pick it up, put it in my lap, and then sometimes it'll calm down.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah, I've got a over large dog, a medium dog, and then I've got a dog that is part poodle. So yeah, my little one, he
so.
can get right underneath me. That's for sure.
And again, it's like your intentions. Nervous people. That's a good point that Nella brought up. Nervous people, they tend to give off negative energy for some reason,
Yeah.
don't they? And
Yep.
and human beings can pick it out.
Yeah.
Animals can pick it out. Even kids, little kids, 7 years old,
Yeah.
they can pick it out. You can.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. True story. People's auras, they give off. A lot of people can read auras, and you can tell a lot about a person by their aura. Me personally, I've never read an aura, but I know immediately, and I think that's where it goes back. Like you, I think you're an empath too, and you can feel people's emotions, so you know immediately whether you like them or not, and what their character is like. Same with a dog or a cat, or a horse, whatever. Yep.
And a
Absolutely.
horse, again, all the animal, a horse, I guess, can really pick up on your senses. I remember riding a horse, and I remember people saying, "Don't be nervous." Yeah, the horse was humongous, and I was a little kid. We went horseback riding, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Right? But if you get over that
Yeah.
fear, if you're not fearful of an animal, they're not fearful of you.
Yeah. Can I just say something real quick? Radio
Yeah.
Vault says that Brandy and I are going to the Louisiana Bigfoot conference. We are not. We are actually not going to be at that one. We won't be at one until Alabama in June. So, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's casual. It's casual Thursday.
Yeah,
We're just kicking it back.
Yeah, we won't be at Louisiana, unfortunately. Love to go, but yeah.
I'm gonna bring up some of these comments if you don't mind, real quick. Go through some of them. I know we can't get through all of them, but I'll do a couple. You can do a couple, and we can continue on. Let's see.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Oh, am I ready to hang on? JoJo says, JoJo's my stalker, by the way. She says well, here, let me put it up. JoJo, some people have said there is a link between cryptids and aliens. What do you both think?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we kind of answered that earlier. There's definitely a link between cryptids and aliens and ghosts and the paranormal and life after death and everything. I think it's all right in our paradigm. I think people always talk about these different planes or different realms. I think we're all on the same plane, but maybe just a different realm. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. I believe that. And I definitely believe it's all intertwined. A year ago, I would have disagreed with you.
Right. See how fast you can change in a year's time?
Right. Yeah.
Because we don't know. It's just a learning process.
Yep. I thought it was all flesh and blood, and they're not.
No. Yeah. Getting back on that subject. Yeah, I think that cryptids or Bigfoot is, my personal opinion is this: flesh and blood with supernatural or paranormal abilities.
Yeah.
Right. They can cloak, they can disappear, they can go walk through portals. I believe they go through portals. How can you explain how it advances from point A to point B in under 30 seconds when it would take you and I an hour to hike there?
Right. And in your encounter, how did it morph into this demonic looking thing? Flesh and blood don't do that.
No, they don't. And then and to be devil's advocate, the more I studied about it, if you look at a baboon, first of all, they're creepy to begin with when you look at them.
Yes.
But they also have that ability. Kind of reminds me of the Bigfoot. That's why I'm leaning toward maybe it wasn't demonic, because it did. A baboon can morph that face. It can pull its skin back tight. It can expose that jaw and those teeth. And that's really kind of what mine did.
Gotcha.
And there's, in fact, Susie B's not in the chat. She sent me something the other day. I got to get a hold of this guy because he had a very similar Bigfoot encounter that I did. He said, look, it looked like a human person and it morphed its face. But when it morphed its face, mine didn't. The face of mine just stayed flat and the jaw dropped. But supposedly, I got to get a hold of this guy and have him on the show. The face, it extruded out. It grew like a snout. Everything went forward instead of staying flat. It protruded. Almost looked like a wolf. So I got to get a hold of this guy. Now when I heard that story, pretty creepy.
Yeah.
I can't figure out how to do the questions. If you want to do it, pull them up.
Yeah. So we already answered that one. I think this here, James says, yes, you can't talk about this with all your families and friends, and it's sad. But I also think some people aren't ready to hear or may never be ready to hear this unknown. Agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, absolutely.
Fortunately for me, my family's in my corner. They know and they believe.
Yeah. So. You already answered that one. Anelia says, I think by poking fun at people's encounters, it's a silencing method. Well, could very well be.
Well, but that's a great point too, because which I don't badmouth anybody, but I will tell you this, when it comes to the BFRO. Okay. Now, unfortunately, those reports aren't accurate because they have their own narrative. If you, and I know this, and I'm not speaking out of my butt here because I've talked to people that are members and former members. In fact, they've been on the
Right.
show. If you have a Sasquatch encounter, and let's say that it's Bigfoot crossing the road, it stopped and it looked at you, then all of a sudden an orb appeared and the thing just disappeared. So if there's any sort of woo or any sort of paranormal associated with an encounter, it doesn't fit the BFRO's narrative. So you know what they do? They sanitize the report. They omit all that from the report. They have 2 copies of the report. One is the one that you reported, the actual one that has all the paranormal going on. But if they put it on the website, they take all that out.
Wow.
Now, to me, that is deception. That is, they're talking about Bigfoot research and how we've got to advance and go forward. Well, we're not going forward at all when you omit the data. And I think that's horrendous. And I don't value them as a reliable source at all.
Neither. And why would you? What is their reasoning for omitting that?
They just think the BFRO, many of the group, now there's 1,000 BFR organizations.
Yeah.
However, their precedent is this: Bigfoot is just a flesh and blood creature, nothing more, nothing less. It's an animal. They don't think it's a person, a forest person. They don't think that it's, a hybrid human. They don't think any of the things that we all talk about on these shows, they think, nope, it's just an animal, pretty much. Now, maybe animal is, and I'll say an animal. They just think it's a flesh and blood creature.
Yeah.
I disagree with that.
Right. Me too.
And I totally disagree with, now you can think that it's just flesh and blood. I'm not going to argue. If Krista, you told me, hey, Rob, my opinion is this: Bigfoot is just a flesh and blood, some sort of, hybrid animal. Maybe it's human in it. I'm not going to argue with you. I'll say, well, I disagree, but here's why. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to change your narrative. I'm not going to change the narrative of somebody that sends me a report. Like when I do the subscriber encounters, do they send me their report or their story? I don't omit it. I don't delete it. I don't rewrite it.
Right, because that's their encounter. Who are you to change it? That's the way I feel.
And the biggest thing is with the BFRO, they're omitting data that's useful for people like us and for researchers that need this data. I don't care if you get 1 million Bigfoot crossing the road sightings, you report those because hopefully there's a database out there somewhere where we can take this information and use it to the benefit of research, right? Right. And to further qualify a lot of things that's going on. And if there's an orb that appears every time you see a Bigfoot and you omit that, then the report is useless.
Yeah. It just I don't know. I feel like, when people, they say that they're flesh and blood, but that's their experience. That's their encounter. I know lots of great people who believe they are flesh and blood, and that's okay. It's not, they haven't encountered any woo factor to it.
Let me I'll tell you a little story about, I think they are flesh and blood, but I think there's something else. And you're going to have a great guest on. I had Ron Moorhead on. You're going to have him on pretty soon.
Next week.
He was on my show some time back. And he said, Rob, 30 years ago, when he interviewed people, he says, if they brought up the woo to me, I automatically dismissed and shut off the interview because I thought that does not exist. There's no such thing. They're a flesh and blood creature. Now, this is coming from Ron Moorhead, who I happen to love and respect to death. And now during the interview, he goes, Rob, today, and that's how Ron has evolved. He believes they're in the woo-woo. He thinks they're associated with aliens. He thinks that they can manipulate time and space.
Yeah.
He came up with the quantum Bigfoot, right? Where it converts energy into mass, and that's how they can travel, right? So Ron today, a flesh and blood entity, but no, he says there's something else involved with this, and I subscribe to his opinion.
Yeah, me too. He's very well respected, and he's way up there in my book.
So absolutely. So and if nobody respects him, then you might as well stop watching the show or get off the Bigfoot subject, because the guy knows his stuff, and I trust what he has to say. Yeah,
and he's seen things that that's changed his mind. And
again, it's what's it from? Research, compiling data. And again, this data gets omitted. Well, how does anyone learn to go forward? So that's the biggest beef.
Right.
And I don't normally, and me and people that know me here in chat and listening later, I don't call out people. I don't call out
Right.
organizations. But that is the one, only because I have the facts. It's been told to me by more than 3 sources what they do. Therefore, I'm not a fan, and I don't recommend reading any of their reports.
Nope, me either. And I will say I do get on their site just to look to see the areas. I will look for that. But as far as reading their reports, no.
Well, when I say that, I do look on reports to see where the numbers are. But then again, how do we know that's an accurate number? Because a lot of the reports they probably don't even post.
Right.
Bigfoot, appeared and there was a flying saucer around. That's not going to go into the report.
Right. Exactly.
It's not going to be posted. You know how many UFOs fly over Lake Superior, where in northern Michigan? Gene knows this. You know how many Bigfoots have been around, and they're populating that part of our state.
Right. Wow.
Well, there was an orb. There was a UFO around. Nope, can't be a Bigfoot, or at least maybe it is, but it doesn't match our narrative. Trying to push their narrative.
Right.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent. We got to get off the subject. I will go into a tirade over this and make it another 40 minutes. But yeah, I just don't like dishonesty is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And omitting, I believe, is dishonest. I mean, you're not telling all the facts, as they obviously don't tell all the facts. So, yeah. So, do you want me to go through more of these questions?
I might get a couple. Ron started out at. Yes, Ron was I don't know when the BFRO came as this and Scott, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
But he, Ron, he started back in the '60s, so I think the BFRO was in the '80s. I could be wrong. I don't know, '70s maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know the history. Yeah, we go through a couple more. We're coming up on what, an hour and a half almost. So yeah, if there's any more left, we can hit them up really quick.
You have 3 here. So one, it's just a comment. It would be cruel to capture them and keep them in a zoo. And I believe maybe they're talking about the Bigfoot and stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rocky on that one.
Yeah. Yep. Sheldon and Dawn said the aliens could be here to save us or help us, and we're shooting them out of the air like clay pigeons. So that's a maybe.
Possibility.
Yep. And then Jean asked, the problem with the truth is everyone has their own truth, and most don't want to believe someone else's truth. There is more than one truth about the same thing. Won't grow till that is recognized.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I was saying too, Gene, about everyone's truth, everyone's story is different. And I don't even like you using the word story because it's not, I associate story with make believe, but it's not. I know, but it depends on your persuasion. But everyone's encounter, right? Everyone's experience, right? Is I hold in the highest of regard. And maybe if I didn't have an encounter, I would think this way.
Yeah.
But you see, I'm not a believer anymore. I'm a knower.
Right.
So that's why I always. So you can't take that that out of me.
There's one more comment. The Radio Vault says, I do not understand. What I do not understand is why these super rich want to make us suffer when we made them rich. Walmart.
Well, again, I did a paper in college about Walmart. Good old Sammy Walton. It was one of my projects. I can't get into it now, but I tell you what, Sam Walton. Okay, do I go to Walmart occasionally? Yes, but Sam Walton, I will say this: not a good man. Not a good man.
Really?
Yeah, I did a research paper, and what he did to achieve success was horrific. What he did to people was horrific. Oh yeah, we're talking going way back to. I hate to use the word. What's the word I'm looking for? He paid people pennies on the dollar to work. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay, so not a good man. And now occasionally I go to Walmart if I have to.
I try not to, but
I think it's got under different ownership today. So if that's so, maybe that's why I go. But go ahead, Krista.
And say I go to Walmart on a have-to basis. I try to hit Target or the grocery store or something.
Yes, Scott, I did believe in Bigfoot before my encounter, but I never really studied or I was, like I said, you guys, everyone listening, I'm open. I believed all sorts of stuff growing up, aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, but I never
talked
I
about.
invested my time in the subject like I do today. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, it's been a great show, Chris. I mean, I
Yeah.
like this. I
Sure.
think once a month we should just do this chit chat type thing, take
Yeah.
questions and recap the people we had on. And for those of you that really want some more Bigfoot, Beyond BMR is on at 9 in the East on Tuesdays. And the month of April, and on that show, I try to talk about other things other than cryptids. But the way this schedule worked out, I've got 4 great researchers coming up in Tuesdays. The month of all April, all month long, all Bigfoot. I'm not going to tell you who they are. A lot of you may know them. They're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
If y'all liked William Lunsford, kind of out of his mold, some of his buddies. And I also have a lady out of Australia who is like the West Germer of Australia. I was on her show a couple months ago. Yowie Central. So she's big in Australia. She'll be joining us in April, as well as 3 other pretty cool researchers as well. They'll be on Beyond BMR all month long, all Bigfoot all day long. And Krista, what do you got coming up tonight?
Tonight we have Brian Bowden. And then
yes, I love Brian.
A good one. I think we're going to talk some UFOs. My favorite subject, as I said. And tomorrow night we have Dr. Rebecca Foster. She's and does metaphysics. She does readings, and she also is a Bigfoot researcher. So cool.
That'd be great. Yeah, we got a great April as we stacked for all the shows. We got some pretty cool guests and good panel discussions too. We got going on. Thank you to Anella for your super chat. Thank you, Rocky, for your super chat. I do appreciate it. The whole channel. We all love you and appreciate you. I love each and every one of you that comes in, and all you folks listening now that are not in chat and that listen later. Fantastic show, Krista.
Yeah, this was fun.
I loved it. I like doing these. Kick back, chill. And I think it looks like our audience enjoyed it as well. Yep. So with that being said, until next time, for Krista, BMR, and we're out.
See ya.